Well, it's Sunday night. We've got severe weather in the plains, weather conditions improving in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states that will lead to warmer temperatures. We've got the Memorial Day weekend coming up next weekend, so we'll talk about that and the long range. That's all tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. The revolutionary Tempest weather system can be yours, and you can be part of the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description to this podcast. And if you purchase this or anything else from the Tempest website, be sure to use the coupon code SPRING 2024 because if you do, you will get
10% off.
Yes. I was thinking that years ago, Sunday night would be the Lawrence Welk show, and then they would flip over to CBS to watch the Ed Sullivan show. Shows you how far back you and I go.
Actually, I think Lawrence Welk was on Saturday nights.
Was it Saturday night? I thought it was.
Yeah.
No, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was Saturday night.
It was Lassie at 7 o'clock. If you want to really see how far back I go, after Lassie there was Dennis the Menace,
Menace.
which was then replaced by My Favorite Martian.
Right.
Then at 8 o'clock was Ed Sullivan. However, when we got our first color TV, we were conflicted because at 7:30 on NBC there was The Wonderful World of Color. Followed
No, the Wonderful World of Disney. You mean?
No, I think it was called The Wonderful World of Color.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was the Wonderful World of Disney.
Well, I would think that you would probably be, but I definitely remember for the longest time. Anybody out there who might remember, I remember it as The Wonderful World of Color, followed by Bonanza. Ding, 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 ding,
Yeah,
ding, ding.
was not a Bonanza fan.
You won't believe this, Joe, but when Bonanza is played on TV Land in the mornings, usually at a quarter to 11 or 11 o'clock. Before Bonanza comes on, they have a slide that says that the depictions in the program were maybe politically incorrect, and you were to watch it with you know I, it's an amazing time that we live in this 21st century.
Right. Well, we have a world where everybody wants to be everybody else's mother.
Yes,
You
is
know,
that TV?
what's
No, it,
that's how I look at it. Everybody's is running for um, the role of being everyone else's mother. There's no other way to explain it. I usually, when people would say to me, if I, we had it last week when somebody on the chat board because I mentioned about pork tenderloin, which I made today in the cast iron skillet, by the way, and in the oven, and I cooked it to medium rare. Oh, you should cook. You got to cook it well done because you're going to get sick and you're going to get this and that. Just thank you. I had a mother. I don't need another one. You know, sorry. There might be an opening for a mother somewhere. Perhaps that person might want to apply, but that's just the way the world is. So anyhow, welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. As we go back into the past, hope everybody had a great weekend, which was kind of it wasn't bad, but it wasn't terrible. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss us. We're on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays we are off unless there's a storm around. In case we will let you know about it, and then uh, we might take another day off. Who knows? And speaking of days off, folks, next Sunday we will be off. It's the Memorial Day holiday weekend. We're going to take off next Sunday. So after Thursday, we won't be back to Monday. So if you like the show, hit the like button. This show hasn't been able to ring for 100 likes in quite a while, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen tonight, but you never know. Anyhow, I dodged. Yesterday was really bizarre here because from about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon until about 9 o'clock at night, all I heard was thunder for about 6 hours. but not a drop of rain until about 9 o'clock, and then we had some rain. And I talked to some of my friends who were on the other side of town that had over an inch and a half of rain, and then I only had 9 hundredths. Meanwhile, today was kind of Florida-ish here today. We had the sun could it was the ultimate self-destruct sunshine. The sun would come out, would last for about an hour, and then we'd have Q build up and downpours. And then the sun would come out again, we'd have Q build up, and then we had downpours and thunderstorms. We actually had a pretty decent thunderstorm here about 2 hours ago. But that's the world I live in here in North Georgia. What say by you, Mr. Rayo?
It was a relatively quiet weekend. We had probably a bit more cloud than sun yesterday. We had more sun than cloud today. We didn't see much in the way of any precipitation. In fact, I don't think we had any precip at all. Um, and Turned out to be a halfway decent, and as I mentioned to you off air, a somewhat boring weekend, for me at least. So
Well, boring is good. Trying to find something here. I'm going to assume it was from, of course, when I go for a search for the Weather Service, every office comes up except the one I want. Uh, no, no, I don't want Norman, Oklahoma. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to find this right now. So here's the deal. The Weather Service office. I'm not sure which one. I'm assuming it was the Upton office. They put up one of those those graphics where they have a list of all the cities, and the theme was that the number of days of rain in the last 45 days. And number one on that list was Islip, New York, with 35 out of since April 1st, 35 out of through May 15th. So it was 35 days out of 45 days that there was at least a 1/100th of an inch or more. And then if you look through the top 20, I think 19 of them were in the northeast slash eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England zone.
it has been wet, hasn't it? But the good news is that after a couple of dry days this weekend, it looks like our first chance of any kind of significant precipitation won't come until Thursday in the afternoon. We may see some scattered thunderstorm activity, and then after that, Joe, hey, it looks like the weather is going to be pretty decent for Getaway Friday, Saturday, and even Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. I'm not so sure about Monday, but it doesn't look like an all too bad holiday weekend ahead of us.
No, it doesn't. And in fact, we are going to warm up this week. We see tomorrow's going to warm up mainly because there'll probably be sun most, if not all, of the day. Um, there's that. But Tuesday and Wednesday, it's going to be in the 80s, and I think there probably could be some warm spots away from the ocean that could see middle to upper 80s. So uh, today, no rain today, and the next 3 days, no rain means 4 days in a row of no rain, which hasn't happened since the first week of April.
Yes, indeed. And did you notice yesterday, by the way? I know you're a horse racing fan. They said that yesterday at Preakness, it was the first time in 85 years that they had a muddy track for the
Yeah.
Preakness.
I was a little surprised by that, but I guess that's true. One of the things is it's not that it hasn't rained on Preakness Day before. It has. It just happened to rain. It happened to rain before the race. And the thing about Pimlico is, uh, the even on days when they've had rain, if the sun comes out, the track dries up really, really quickly. I mean, you could go from a muddy track to a fast track in like an hour and a half. It just dries real, real fast. So I was a little surprised that it goes all the way back to 1938. But then again, as I said, it is a fast drying track uh, at Pimlico. So oh well, I didn't bet, so I didn't make any money, and I didn't lose any money either.
It was an interesting race, and no Triple Crown this year, apparently. So
Nope. Okay, so let's get going here. We've got severe weather tonight in the plains. Uh, a lot of severe thunderstorm watches up from central and western South Dakota, western Nebraska, northeast Colorado, just about all of Kansas except 5 counties along the Nebraska border that are not under a severe thunderstorm watch, and much of western Virginia, western Missouri. One, two, three, four, five. So the 5 counties in Kansas that aren't in a watch. We've got 5 southernmost counties in Iowa near the Missouri border that are in a severe thunderstorm watch, and then a handful of counties in southeastern Nebraska, also down into western Oklahoma, and 4 counties in northwest Texas. We also still have, let me just double check, but we still have southeast Florida under a severe thunderstorm watch at this time. The rest of the country, uh, nothing, nothing really excessive going on, so we don't have any other watches and warnings. And as we check out the satellite loop tonight, a lot of the clouds, there were a lot of clouds around this morning, and there's still actually cloud cover over eastern Long Island and southeastern New England that hasn't really gotten out of the way, but everybody else at least broke out into some sunshine, which was good. And if you look to the south in North Georgia, you can see what I'm dealing with. There's some thunderstorms that have developed in the Carolina Mountains that are actually moving southwestward, and there's some lightning strikes with that. And there's one that's not that far from me, headed this way. So let's see what happens. Hopefully, I won't lose power if I get into that. And we've got some storms off the Florida coast and a little bit of action. You can see the severe weather, actually, quite a bit of action with thunderstorms and lightning strikes developing across Kansas and into parts of Nebraska and South Dakota with those severe thunderstorm watches. Looks like the next chance for a front in the east is going to be Thursday. I threw in some showers. Threw in the chance for some storms with that as it goes on through. It's not the strongest shortwave in the world, but it's not the weakest one either.
Well, that's what I said a few moments ago. I think the next possibility that we might see showers and scattered thunderstorms would be with that front on Thursday, most likely in the afternoon and early evening, and then after that, uh, the weather, which will be rather warm and also a bit on the humid side, will be drying out, and the humidity will be going down, and that leads us into again the start of the upcoming holiday weekend on Friday.
By the way, there's heat in South Florida in a big way, with record highs and record high lows being set again in southern Florida. I noticed that there were heat advisories up for that area, and also the heat is building up into Texas, and you can see there's no cloud cover at all, really. So South Texas, especially, seeing some hot weather. So we're starting to see signs of summer beginning to push their way northward. Here's the radar tonight. The northeast and mid-Atlantic quiet. Those are the cells I'm talking about here in North Georgia that are moving southwestward, and getting one just left me, as I'm kind of in between these two patches here. I just got out of this one, and now there's one to my northeast that's coming southwestward. So if it holds together, I might hear a loud kaboom before too long. Storms are now off the Florida coast. So there's not much going on land. And then, of course, we've got all this active weather here in southeast Nebraska, and on into Kansas. A lot of severe thunderstorm warnings up, and we've got a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings up also, Joe, in Oklahoma. In fact, I see a tornado warning, so let me just take a look. I know David Schwartz, as always, thank you, putting up samples of severe thunderstorm warnings in Dewey County in South Dakota. We have, and I'm not seeing it here on the, let me look at it on the radar. Hold on. I got to get my mouse to the other side here. Oh, come on. Where is it?
Yes.
You know, my eyes are just not what they used to be. But there you see the cluster. Oh, there it is. There's a little small red box there. There's about 6 or 7 severe thunderstorm warnings up in that part of the country. And There is a tornado warning in Dewey County in South Dakota. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. 7 miles southwest of Whitehorse, Joe. 16 miles south of Timber Lake, moving northeast at 20 miles an hour. And I'm trying to see if there's anything other than that. In Oklahoma, there's one in Custer and Roger Mills counties in Oklahoma. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado 4 miles southwest of Morewood, moving east at 30, and it's 7:52 p.m. Eastern time. As always, I like to say, if you're watching this on a replay, obviously the radars and satellites and mentions of current weather are dated. So please go to weather.gov to your local National Weather Service office for the latest weather information. I'm um, I'm leaning partially optimistic for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. I don't know if you've taken a look, but I'm thinking that this might be a 2 out of 3 ain't bad type of weekend.
Yeah, I agree with you. The only the one day that may, I won't say suffer, but the one day that might not be so great compared to Friday, Saturday, Sunday would be the actual holiday, Memorial Day Monday. But we're still a little more than a week away, and things can change.
Right, and that's frontal. So if it's not, as long as it's not a low offshore with an onshore flow setup, um, then it comes down to what time does the front go through, and is it dry for most of the day, and you get showers and thunderstorms in the mid to late afternoon, or late afternoon to early evening. Uh, that's at least better than if you were sitting with a low off the Jersey coast with an east wind and temperatures in the 50s.
And who would want that? Well, actually, if you think about it, we had just that kind of weather for Memorial Day weekend. What, 2 or 3 years ago? We had temperature.
Yes.
One of the days, temperatures couldn't even break 50, and we had drizzle. It was terrible. Let's hope we don't have something like that to deal with.
SPC has a moderate risk tonight in Kansas, and an enhanced risk, a tight area of enhanced risk around that extends down into northern Oklahoma and goes a little bit further north in the state of Kansas. Slight risk goes all the way up into South Dakota and extends a little bit further south into North Dakota. We also have a marginal slight risk coastal Georgia down to Florida. Most of that may have already played itself out from what we're seeing. And as far as what's going on currently with regards to watch boxes, we do have these are all severe thunderstorm watches that are up. A new one has gone up in eastern Kansas and northwest Missouri. Watches continue through the rest of the state as we described earlier, then going all the way up into South Dakota. This is not a the tornado risk. Usually with a moderate risk, you have that hatched area with 30% probability of EF2 to an EF5 tornado, but this seems to be more of a severe thunderstorm, hail, and wind situation, and less of a tornado situation because the SPC risk areas here are only in the 2 to 5% range.
So it does not look like a. But you know what? And we were talking about this just the other day. Down in Houston, where there are countless thousands of people still without power, and where they're saying that the power may not be restored in some cases, Joe, until for another week or two, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a tornado. That was now been defined as a derecho.
Really, yeah, there was some talk about that. It was a derecho. That's very well. I mean, you look at some of the videos that I looked at. Um, I didn't see. It's hard to see from the video whether there's evidence of a tornado or not, unless it's obvious. But from downtown Houston, but yeah, the damage was really extent. The derecho damage can be awesome, be breathtaking. Let's put it that way.
You don't need a tornado. You get those straight line winds to 80, 100 miles an hour. That'll do a bit of damage. And if you don't believe me, talk to somebody down in Houston because they really got hammered a few days ago.
Slight risk tomorrow in Nebraska and northern Kansas into southwest Iowa and northwest Missouri. Also, a slight risk indicated in northeastern Illinois, northwestern Indiana, and southeast Wisconsin. So this includes Chicago and Milwaukee for tomorrow, and a small area of marginal risk in southeast Florida, and a sort of a broad brushed area of 2% tornado risk with this from Nebraska and Kansas northeast all the way up into Michigan. Now, day three, which is for Tuesday into Wednesday. This was something that SPC put in their long range a few days ago, where they started with the slight risk and then they went to enhanced, and now it's in their short range time frame. So tomorrow we'll see what they do with this with tornado risk, but they have a rather large area, and I'm thinking that this one here for Tuesday is probably going to have more tornado risk with it. Eastern Kansas, northeast to southwest Wisconsin, so and everybody in between, as far east as western Illinois, an enhanced risk and a slight risk that goes from Oklahoma all the way up to the upper peninsula of Michigan. So it's a fairly wide area here of severe weather potential for Tuesday into Wednesday, and it does involve a deepening low and a strong short wave that's going to be swinging through. So I'm thinking that this is a day that we're going to have to keep our eyes on. And in the long range on day four, we have a area from central Texas northeastward all the way up to Ohio and southeastern Michigan with a 15% risk for severe weather. The other days, predictability is too low. They don't have anything in the Northeast on day six, but they do have another area, Northeast Texas, eastern Oklahoma, cut Arkansas in half on a diagonal, and northwestern Louisiana. I wouldn't be shocked if we wind up on Thursday with this front, if one or two thunderstorms wind up being on the strong side. I don't know about why maybe isolated severe thunderstorms. I'm gonna envision that maybe they'll have a marginal risk up for Thursday.
I would not doubt that we would be under some kind of a severe weather alert for Thursday, considering again that well, first of all, it's going to be rather warm ahead of that weather front, and as far as I just want to check here dew point temperatures. I know it's going to turn less humid behind the front on Friday, but hang on for a second here. So we're talking about dew points that'll be probably at or above 60 on Thursday, with temperatures again soaring well up into the 70s and even the 80s, especially inland. And then the dew points drop into the 40s on Friday. So, Joe, when you see that kind of a drop in the dew point accompanying a weather front, yeah, I could see that we could be in line for more than just general thunderstorm activity. We could see a few big boomers here come Thursday late of this week.
Not a lot of rain though. WPC only has a quarter of an inch or less from Virginia to Maine, except for northern Maine, half to three quarters there, and except for southern Virginia down into North Carolina, half to three quarters there. Going to catch a break here in Georgia because we could really, we've been getting not it's not everywhere every day, but there have been clusters of thunderstorms and downpours going on for days on end here, it seems. So we really could use some drier weather. And at least from the standpoint of WPC, a quarter of an inch in North Georgia and far less as you go further south. So that's good. And no rain is forecast along the Gulf Coast down to Texas. However, the opposite is true in Oklahoma and eastern Oklahoma to Arkansas and southern Missouri, where we're looking at an inch and a half to some cases 2.5 to 3 inches. Of course, that's all going to be convectively driven. And then from Iowa and Nebraska northward up to the Canadian border and beyond, and into the Western Lakes, we're looking at a very large area of an inch and a half to as much as 3 inches over the next 7 days. So it looks like right in the up and down the entire Mississippi River Valley, except the extreme southern part, looks like that's where all the wet weather is going to be over the next week.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like I checked Les Plumes a little while ago, and they really for let's say New York City, they're not really putting out all that much in terms of precipitation, measurable precipitation. For example, um, the grand total is on the order of about well, less than a tenth of an inch. That takes us all the way out to the 23rd, and the 23rd just happens to be Thursday. So
Right.
so it does not look. Well, wait a minute now. Thursday 060. All right. So what we're seeing here is before the main area of showers and storms arrives. That would be late in the day on Thursday, and the plumes only go out to about 2 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. So it'll be interesting to see tomorrow night, for example, what the plumes are putting out in terms of measurable precipitation. Until then, really not much, if anything, to be concerned about.
Well, WPC, this goes to next Sunday night. So they've got a quarter of an inch or less. In fact, most of eastern PA to southern New England is in less than a quarter of an inch, greater than a tenth and less than a quarter. So the front in question on Thursday is the only one between now and next Sunday night. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be anything. No, it doesn't look like it's going to be a big rain producer unless there's a thunderstorm in there that locally produces some big amounts someplace. But other than that, um, it doesn't look like it's going to be a big problem here.
No, it does not. From my neck of the woods, and this is on the 7 day outlook for where I am, a quarter of an inch. That seems to be the grand total amount, and that probably would be mainly Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening. Up till then, hardly anything, and after that, looks like until the end of the day next Sunday, dry and no precip of any significance. So the one day that you may need your umbrella is Thursday. And again, Joe, it's always difficult when you take into account convection. Um, they may have as little as a tenth or a quarter of an inch for Thursday, but you know as well as I, especially if it's a rather warm day and if the dew points are high, that you could end up with a one singular thunderstorm cell that could bring down 2 or 3 times as much. So you could pick up, maybe a half or three-quarters of an inch in one sitting with one good thunderstorm cell. And you really can't make a projection about that, 3, 4, 5 days in advance. All you can do is just simply say the probability of precipitation probably be at its highest come later on Thursday of this week.
Upper air has been transitioning over from a trough in the east to the trough back in the west. And that bodes well for drier weather in the eastern part of the United States overall, as long as the main trough stays well to our west in the plains. Not good for them because that means rounds of severe weather as short waves rotate around. So, except for some that breakaway short waves that make their way into southeastern Canada, and that'll be Thursday, for example, with an approaching cold front. You can kind of see what happens here. You get this uh, shortwave trough that moves through on Tuesday. Actually, a rather strong shortwave that heads up into northwest Minnesota. So that's going to be the trigger for the severe weather in the upper Midwest on the Tuesday night into Wednesday. That breaks away and goes up east of James Bay, well to the north. More short waves dropping down into the western half of the United States on for the second half of the week and next weekend. But here in the east, there's just the upper air is starting to look more like an upper air that you would see in the late spring as the jet stream starts to pull up further and further north into Canada. Now there are chances for cutoffs here off the east coast in the longer term, but that's not this is all broad-based speculation, and so it's hard to put down anything specific. But at least as far as outrageous severe weather or long duration heavy rains are concerned, we certainly don't have that to worry about in the eastern part of the United States. So kind of a reasonable mid to late spring pattern developing here this week and lasting for the next looks like the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, if you can give me sharing capabilities, I can show you what CPC, the Climate Prediction Center, is alluding to in terms of temperature and especially in terms of precipitation for the first 2 weeks of June. I can't believe I'm saying that. The first 2 weeks of June, which is actually within our grasp. I'll show this to you right now. Um, this is the experimental uh, Prague for the period from June 1 to June 14. So again, first 2 weeks of June, and we see that the probability is between 55 and 60% for much of the Northeast, the Mid Atlantic, going all the way back into the Central Plain states, and 55 to 60% is more or less, leaning toward above normal. So it looks like June may actually start off, at least according to CPC, the first 2 weeks, maybe more showery and wet than anything else. And you're wondering about precipitation. You've got precipitation there. How about temperatures? Well, temperatures is interesting. Take a look at this, a broad zone of equal chances for either above or below normal.
It
So
could
I
be
guess,
above, it could be below.
well, when you see equal chances, you say, well, it looks like they're suggesting that it will be near normal temperature wise. It is above normal over in central and especially northern New England, and the place where it is pretty well in line with above normal probabilities for warmer temperatures would be out in the northern plains and the Rockies, out here in Montana and also Wyoming, Utah, much of Colorado, and then down into western sections of New Mexico. It looks like we've got um, 60 to 70% probability of above normal temperatures. So at least here in the east, near normal temperatures, but above normal precipitation is the tentative forecast. Again, this is the experimental 3 to 4 week prog for our neck of the woods, and we'll see if that all pans out. But again, for the next week or so, precipitation is going to be rather scanty. Again, the one day that looks like we may be in line for showers and storms will be on Thursday.
All right, and then just checking out the uh, the latest GFS sophists, if we can here, and you'll notice that we've got for a change starting not so much tomorrow, but on Tuesday with a high off the Delaware coast. We're finally going to get rid of the the broad wind coming in from off the ocean and go to more of a south or southwest wind starting on Tuesday, and particularly for Wednesday into Thursday. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody gets, by the time we get to Wednesday, if somebody gets close to 90 degrees away from the ocean. It wouldn't be a shocker to me. And then here's that front you were talking about, Joe. And of course, going back, just want to roll back here on Monday. You have a low that's coming out of Colorado that goes into Nebraska, and that low is going to eventually wind up into Minnesota and strengthening. And this is what is going to trigger off a severe weather event potential in the up in the Midwest, and the enhanced risk I think is justified here with this low that deepens into the 980s by the time it gets to western Lake Superior. So that looks like some pretty nasty rough weather. But here in the east, I mean, with the high where it's going, most of the east is going to be dry this week, which is great. And then, of course, you've got this front that approaches on Thursday, maybe some showers or perhaps a rumble or two of thunder when the front goes by. And then that goes, as long as fronts keep moving, we're good. And then Friday, a little weak high builds in. There's some rain that crosses over from Kentucky and Tennessee, but that stays mostly west and south. So Saturday looks okay. Sunday looks, I guess we could say it's okay. The only thing about Friday through Sunday is the wind is going to be more east or southeast or south. So it's not going to. I don't think it's going to be especially warm. It'll be seasonal, but maybe a little above normal. But it's not going to be mid to upper 80s beach weather with this. And then the question is, do we get some showers on Memorial Day with a weather front coming through? And then it looks like the onshore flow wants to set up after Memorial Day with lower pressures along the mid-Atlantic states going into the middle part and latter part of next week. But other than that, there's nothing major. The other thing is that the GFS does have something coming out of the Caribbean that moves pretty quickly northward. The NHC is not, this is for later this week. NHC is not mentioning anything in their outlooks for the outgoing out 7 days. So until something appears, uh, it's just pure model speculation, like models want to do, and the Pacific is quiet as well. So nothing crazy. Just sort of moseying along here in the coming week. Just the severe weather, the potential severe weather. I think for Tuesday, I think is the one big deal in the United States this week.
Well, yeah, I think, like I said, I think that for us in the Northeast, most of New England, down into the mid-Atlantic area, later Thursday and Thursday evening, we stand a chance of getting into some severe weather. As I know it's several days off, but I think we're going to have more than just average thunderstorms to deal with when we get to Thursday. So something to watch, and we'll see how this all pans out at SPC and how they will put this on their convective outlook in the next few days to come.
J. Justin B, how far away from the ocean are you talking about? I'm sorry, I just kind of lost my train of thought with what you're directing your question at. Are you talking about temperatures or sea breeze? If you could be a little bit more, give me a little more context, and I'll try to answer your question. Um, just sort of forgot what exactly I was talking about with respect to being away from the ocean. Um, I don't think you have to be if it's for temperatures. I don't. Oh, temperatures above 90. You may not have to be that far away. Okay. Especially get later Tuesday when the wind goes southwest on Tuesday and more well south southwest on Tuesday and more southwest on Wednesday. I would think that unless you're right on the coast, right along the immediate coast, uh, say interior New Jersey and points west and south, you have a shot maybe of getting up to about 90 degrees. It's not impossible. Um, as long as you get enough sun and you got a good launching pad, you don't even need that good a launching pad to do it this time of year. Shall we do a little Briller Jeopardy? Do you have it tonight?
I think I may. Let me just check here, and we shall see what we shall see. Oh, wait a minute. See, I have two Facebook pages, and so when one is, I'm not even going to get into the explanation. I'll just get to Mr. Briller here. Yes, this was sent yesterday in the afternoon, mid-afternoon. Briller Jeopardy average high temperatures in May for the following five cities, Joe. The average high temperature in the month of May for the following five cities. And city number one is Denver.
For the month of May?
In the month of May, yes.
Oh, I'll say 76.
Not a bad guess, a little bit on the warm side. And Joe Gaffney has 82, and John Millender came very close with 74. So did Maggie P. Patrick Darcy is at 70. But the one who hit it, Jason Fox, with 72. So did Frank Scalera, 72. Paul Roman, you were just shy of it with 73. Northern Grace also with 73 degrees. But the answer for Denver, average high temperature in May, 72. And now we check out Fred and Ethel's very favorite city, Honolulu.
Uh, I'll say 81.
81 again, not a bad guess, not high enough, but
Not the correct guess.
not the correct guess. John Millender again, 83, a little bit closer. And Prime Minister Reuben Fairchild gets it with 85. Same for Jason Fox, the same for Rich Rothmansky. 85 degrees, the average high temperature in the month of May. Now we come to a town that truly wishes that it had electricity to run their air conditioning, but because of the big storms of the recent last few days, still waiting for many. Houston, Texas, average high temperature in the month of May.
I will say 87.
Joe, Snake Country for you.
Oh, okay. Uh, Maggie P said 86, and
Maggie
Anthony also said 86.
Josie said 86, and you're right, 86. That's the average high in the month of May in Houston, or Houston, as as General Zod said in Superman 2. Um,
Right.
anyway, number 4, Jacksonville.
I will say 86.
What did you say, Joe?
86. Ta-da!
Ding, 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 ding. 86 is correct. Right on the nose. Last one is Lost Wages, Nevada.
I will say 92.
Too high.
Too high?
Too hot.
Uh, Maggie P says 88.
That's Snake Country, 88.
And Prime Minister Reuben Fairchild and Rich Rothbansky say 90.
That's also Snake Country. So
So
where
Patrick Darcy at 89, and
and
William
what
Uber at 89, and Frank Scalera at 89, and Michael McGuire at 89. So I think it must be 89.
it's 89. 89 degrees, the average high temperature in the month of May in Las Vegas, Nevada. Why? Why, when I was there with my dear wife Renata in 2022, instead of 89, we suffered with temperatures as high as 104 in May. Ah, yeah,
Would you?
it's a dry
It's a
heat,
dry heat. Yeah.
but 104 is still
You want
104.
dry heat? Stick your head in the oven.
Exactly.
You know. Um, could you explain to Prime Minister Reuben Fairchild what the snake country mean?
It means it's a reference to I Love Lucy. When Fred had his glasses above his eyes, he was wearing them, but they were above his eyes, and he was looking around and walking around searching for his glasses. And finally, I forgot if it was Ethel or Ricky who said, "You're wearing them," and he realized that he was wearing them, and said and made the comment, "Well, what do you know? If it were a snake, it would have bit me." So that's what we mean when you come within, let's say, a degree of the temperature projection or the answer. That's what we refer to as snake country because you're in snake country. You if it were any closer, it would bite you.
Correct. So we use that as a reference that if you're within one on either side, if it was a snake, it would have bit you. That's how close you are without getting it right.
I disagree with Frank Scalera. He says if Fred said if it was a snake, it would have bit me in the head. Did he say that?
I don't
I,
think he said bit me. I don't think he said in the head.
I
I
don't
think
think
he
he
just said if it was a snake, it would have bit me. That was it.
right. And incidentally, I did check um, from 1961 to 1969 on the NBC network on Sundays at 7:30 p.m. The show was The Wonderful World of Color. And the reason why they called it that was that NBC, before any of the other network stations, was pretty much a color network. ABC did not have the ability to show color programs, or at least they did. They were few and far between. CBS also, but NBC had the color, and so Disney shifted to NBC and changed the name of the show to The Wonderful World of Color. Later, back in the 80s and 90s, when the show was back on ABC, they referred to it as The Wonderful World of Disney. But from
Oh,
six,
okay.
but from 61 to 69, it was The Wonderful World of Color. Color.
Gotcha. God. So what was it? An hour and a half of just looking at color bars?
No, it was a 1 hour show, I believe, followed by Bonanza, or maybe it was an hour and a half. I don't know.
Well, wonderful world of color. World of color. Why didn't I know this? Oh, well, it was Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color.
Right.
Okay. And it was an anthology series, 1961 to 1969. The program's current title, The Wonderful World of Disney, was used from 1969 to 1979, and then again from 1991 onward. The program moved among the big three television networks in its first 4 decades, but has aired on ABC since 1997 and Disney Plus since 2020. And you know something, Joe? I've never watched a single show since I apparently lived through all of this time period. I have never once watched a single show of the wonderful world of color slash Disney.
Well, like I said, when we got our color TV, oh, we've got to see the wonderful world of color. And I still remember when seeing TV in color. Oh, look at that! Oh my goodness! And now it's like, you don't
Right.
even.
So it was called Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color, 1961 to 1969, was aired by NBC. Then it went to The Wonderful World of Disney from 1969 to 1979 on NBC. And then it went to Disney's Wonderful World, 1979 to 81 on NBC. Then it became Walt Disney from 1981 to 1983 on CBS, which I have no memory of this at all. The Disney Sunday Movie in 1986 to 88 on ABC. Then it went back to NBC from 88 to 91, and then for 5 years there was nothing. And then in 96 it was the Magical World of Disney on the Disney Channel, 96 to 2001. The Magical World of Disney Junior from 2012 to 2021, and then on. We're doing a free commercial here for Disney. So
Anyway, if you want to see Ed Sullivan, by the way, if you want to see Ed Sullivan tonight, you can on Me TV. Those of you who have Me TV, Ed Sullivan is on for a half an hour at 10 o'clock tonight, and
okay.
it's and I'm sure it's going to be a really big show.
Yes, a really big shoe.
Yeah.
Okay, the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description to this podcast. Use the coupon code SPRING 2024. If you do, you will get.
10% off.
Hope everybody had a great weekend. We'll be back tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget, next Sunday we're going to take off, but it's a regular week this week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we will be here. Good night.
Nighty night, folks.